Hey everybody, welcome to March. I've got this month's Shadowscope all ready for you, so let's dive in. So as you guys know, I've been working with the Osha Zen Tarot deck to do the shadow work for you guys for the month, and the card that came up for you is Integration. This is March's card. So there were a lot of different messages that were coming up for me to share with you with this card, so I'm going to try to go over everything, and hopefully I'll remember every single piece of information here for you guys. So the first thing is, if you can see here, there's a yin and yang, right? And that represents the duality of life, right? There's always like two different sides to everything. Everything's not just all one thing. So what I'm getting is really, well, how do we use that duality in order to our best advantage this month, right? How do we work with two opposing forces? Because sometimes that can be really confusing. For example, what happens if you've got like motivation and then laziness, and you're like, well, how do I make these two things work together, because they seem like they're on opposite ends of the spectrum? So one of the things that you could do, just as an example, if you're having these type of energies, is that motivation is really great to help you get things done, but there's also a place for laziness and rest, and stepping away from things when you're a little too motivated, right? So you can figure out how to balance those two, when to kind of push forward and pull back on each one. And if you can get these in kind of like a nice rhythm or steady motion, it will really help you move forward a little bit better than if you were completely lazy or completely motivated. The second energy that this card is really asking us to look at is our black and white thinking, because everyone does this, whether you're aware of it or not, whether you want to or not. It sort of goes into the capacity of how our brain organizes and categorizes information. It's kind of ingrained in us from different beliefs that we have, different experiences that we have. So a lot of people will tend to kind of put a filter or a lens on the way that they see the world. Now, this lens isn't always necessarily accurate, especially if you're not as self-aware maybe as you could or should be. So we're really being asked to explore what the gray area is. And this has been a really big theme for me this year. So it's kind of interesting that this card came up. And the gray area is a really hard place to be, because you really have to fight your own kind of thoughts and preconceptions of everything in order to find that middle space. It's not always or never, right? There's a middle between those things. You can't always be something or never be something. There's an in-between. And so I think kind of limiting statements like that are something that we're being asked to kind of be mindful of and watchful of, and really see how that concept is affecting us as we're moving through the world. The third and final thing that you want to be aware of this month in regards to the concept of integration is integrating yourself. Your shadow self specifically, because we all have these parts of ourselves that we feel are unlovable or undesirable, or maybe somebody has shamed us or embarrassed us at some point for a piece of ourselves that's just who we are. And it's not necessarily a bad part of who we are, it's just a part that maybe somebody else wasn't comfortable with, maybe a part that doesn't go along with kind of the rest of the world, right? Like you kind of do your own thing, and so that part is kind of misunderstood or unappreciated. So it's really about learning to make friends with your shadow self and learning to love the parts of yourself that you really feel uncomfortable expressing. Because when you can do that, what you're doing is you're creating less resistance and more alignment, which is really what we're focusing on. Now, I've also downloaded 3 particular areas here where you can focus your energy kind of on the energy of like integration and duality. Like, which opposing forces do you need to really be focusing on this month? One of the areas is going to be positive and negative thoughts, right? So where is the middle ground between those two things? The second part is going to be masculine and feminine energy. The last 2 concepts that we want to look at for this month are the differences between logic versus creativity. So I know that's a lot of different things. It gives you a lot to work on, but just pick the areas that feel best for you, that you feel most drawn to, and that's where you should be working. So I hope that was really helpful. As always, I love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. And until next time, have an absolutely beautiful day.